The stars stretched endlessly over the Galactic Council Hall. Ships from dozens of systems hovered in the great docking bay, each one shining with the pride of its owners. Some were vast, golden starships that looked like floating fortresses. Others were smaller, sleek, and fast, designed to move through space like living creatures. Amidst all of them, a human ship approached calmly. Its hull was simple, clean, and efficient. It did not shine with gold or flashing lights, but there was something about it that drew attention. Commander Mara Vance stood on the bridge of the human ship, watching the council hall grow larger on the view screen. She had been trained for situations like this all her life, but she did not need the usual excitement or panic that her crew often felt. Humans had learned a long time ago that patience, observation, and confidence could achieve more than anger or force. She straightened her shoulders, giving the calm signal to her crew. The crew of the Resolute mirrored her calm. Lieutenant Chen adjusted the navigation feed, ensuring their docking approach was precise. Engineer Rajiv checked the power flow, making sure the ship could handle the docking without issue. They did not rush, and they did not fidget. Each movement was deliberate, measured, and purposeful. The humans walked into the Council's territory not with fear, but with quiet authority. The Galactic Council was not used to this kind of approach. For centuries they had dealt with civilizations that either bowed quickly to their power or tried to challenge them openly. Humans were doing neither. They came, requested entry, and waited. The council hall itself was massive, a sphere larger than any city on Earth. Alien delegates of every imaginable form filled the chambers. Some floated in the air, their translucent bodies pulsing with internal light. Others moved on multiple legs or with many arms, and still others seemed to be made entirely of hard crystal or metal. A soft hum of alien languages filled the air, a constant reminder of the diversity of the galaxy. "Look at them," whispered one alien delegate to another, a blue-scaled creature with 4 eyes. "They are tiny, and they just... wait. Do they think they belong here?" "They seem calm," the other replied, a tall, insect-like figure whose voice sounded like soft clicking. "Too calm. It is unnerving." Inside the ship, Mara did not respond to the whispers or the attention. She knew exactly why they were watching. Humans had a reputation, though it was still a growing legend among many species. Tales of human ingenuity, courage, and stubbornness traveled slowly, but stories had reached even these distant delegates. Some believed them, most still thought humans were insignificant. That was fine. Underestimation was a powerful tool. The docking sequence completed smoothly. The Resolute glided into the massive docking bay, the silence of its approach creating an almost tangible contrast to the flurry of alien movement around it. Humans disembarked calmly, their steps measured and purposeful. Mara led the delegation, 4 humans in total, each selected for intelligence, skill, and composure. Council officials approached. They were massive, tall enough that even the largest human would barely reach their chest. They loomed over the delegation, speaking in a low, resonant language that humans could not understand. Fortunately, universal translators rendered their words clearly. "You come before the Galactic Council. State your purpose. Quickly. We have little patience for small species." Mara inclined her head slightly. "We come to request consideration for the Delta 9 system," she said clearly. "It is a human colony under dispute. We ask that the Council review the situation fairly and impartially." A murmur spread through the delegates. Some were curious, others were annoyed. To the Council, humans were a new player, barely old enough to be considered serious. And yet, here they stood, calm and unshaken, speaking with confidence and clarity. One of the council elders, a being of solid black crystal, tilted its head. "You ask for consideration," it said. "And what makes you believe your claim is worthy of attention?" Mara's voice remained steady. Our claim is based on documented treaties, exploration logs, and the legal frameworks of the Council itself. We are not asking for favor. We are asking for fairness." The words were simple, almost too simple for the grandeur of the Council Hall, yet they struck a chord. For a moment, there was silence. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. They were used to elaborate speeches, aggressive demands, or displays of power. Humans had done none of these things. They had asked for justice, quietly and without intimidation. Another delegate, a serpent-like creature whose scales shimmered with gold, hissed softly, "Patience is not weakness. They could be clever, but they are insignificant. We need not waste time on them." Mara noticed the subtle gestures of disdain, but she did not react. Humans had learned long ago that reaction to insults was unnecessary. What mattered was the outcome, not the emotions stirred along the way. The Council discussed briefly among themselves in a language that humans could not understand. When they turned back, their expressions were firm. "You ask for review," the Crystal Elder said. "But the Council finds your request unworthy of immediate attention. Delta 9 remains under disputed control as previously assigned. You may appeal later in writing if you wish, but now you are dismissed." Mara's lips curved slightly in a polite, almost imperceptible smile. "Thank you for your time," she said softly. Then she turned and signaled to her team. They left the chamber, walking calmly back to the Resolute. The Council murmured among themselves. Some delegates were annoyed, some were confused. None understood fully what had just happened. Why did the humans not protest? Why did they not yell, threaten, or beg? Why had they left so calmly, without anger or fear? Back on the ship, Mara allowed herself a small exhale. The humans were not finished. What the Council did not realize was that patience, planning, and calm could be as strong as any weapon. Lieutenant Chen spoke first, breaking the silence. "They really did not take us seriously, did they?" "No," Mara said softly. "They still do not, and that is exactly why we have the advantage." Rajiv nodded. "They will think this is over. They will not notice our preparations until it is too late." Mara looked at the stars beyond the docking bay, thinking ahead. Humans have always faced this kind of doubt. It is how we succeed, not by force, not by anger, but by showing the truth calmly and relentlessly. Meanwhile, the Council Hall buzzed with debate. Delegates whispered warnings to one another. Some were growing uneasy. They had never seen a species respond to dismissal with silence and composure. They had never seen a species that could endure arrogance without reacting, yet carry an unspoken authority that demanded recognition. A small group of council members approached one another. "We underestimated them," said the gold-scaled serpent. "I do not know why, but there is something about them. Something unsettling." "They walk away," said the Crystal Elder, its tone uneasy. "Without anger, without complaint. And yet, their presence lingers." Back on the human ship, Mara prepared the next steps. They were not going to leave the Council's decision unchecked, but they would proceed with the same calm and quiet authority. Humans did not need to raise voices or weapons immediately. They had time, they had patience, and most importantly, they had intelligence and strategy that no Council member could ignore forever. As the Resolute departed the docking bay, the Council watched silently. There was no explosion, no attack, no dramatic show of force. The humans walked away calmly, and yet, in that calmness, they had already begun to change the balance of power in ways the Council could not yet measure. Mara looked at her crew and said, "Our work begins now. They have ignored us once. That was their first mistake. We will ensure it is their last." In the days that followed, rumors began to spread across the Council systems. Small whispers about humans appeared on ships, in stations, in distant planets. They spoke of a species that did not fight immediately, yet had the patience and strength to make the galaxy listen. Some dismissed these rumors. Others were uneasy. Every council member felt it, even if they could not name it. Humans were different. Their calm was not weakness. Their silence was not submission. And their intelligence, discipline, and moral resolve were quietly, steadily reshaping the perception of power. The first part of the plan was complete. The humans had arrived. They had been dismissed, and they had walked away without a single sign of anger. But the council would remember, and when they did, it would already be too late. Because humans had learned long ago, calm was a weapon. Patience was a strategy, and walking away was sometimes the most dangerous move of all. The humans did not return to the Galactic Council immediately. Instead, the Resolute drifted through the star lanes near the disputed Delta 9 system. Mara Vance and her team studied the colonies, taking careful notes. Unlike the Council, humans did not need to make a grand announcement. Their approach was subtle, deliberate, and quietly powerful. Delta 9 was a harsh system. Its planets had been claimed by several alien powers over the centuries, and its human colonists had suffered from neglect, poor resources, and a lack of protection. Many of the alien species assumed humans would give up. They assumed humans would fight angrily or leave defeated. But Mara and her crew had learned the opposite. Humans observed first, acted second, and always thought ahead. On the bridge, Mara looked at the holographic display of the Delta 9 colonies. "The Council does not care about these people," she said softly. "But we do. And that is why we will act differently. Not with force, but with influence." Lieutenant Chen studied the colony data. "They will never notice what we are doing," he said. "Everything we do will seem small, but it will matter." Rajiv nodded. "We can provide resources, technology, and guidance quietly. The Council will see it later, and they will have no idea it was humans behind it." Mara smiled. "Exactly. Patience, observation, and calm. That is our greatest weapon." While humans quietly helped the colonies, the Council continued to debate their dismissal. Delegates from multiple systems argued in heated tones. "They walked away," hissed the serpent-like gold-scaled delegate. "They left us without confrontation. That is dangerous." "They are small," replied a crystal elder. "Too small to matter. They cannot enforce anything." "But they're calm." "It is not natural," whispered the insect-like delegate. "No species walks away after being dismissed. They should have been angry. They should have protested." The Council's unease grew with each passing day. While they argued, human influence quietly spread. The colonists of Delta 9 noticed improvements, better energy systems, improved communication networks, and small advanced defenses installed without fanfare. Humans never revealed themselves openly. They only left subtle signs of guidance and support. Colonists whispered about mysterious helpers from the stars who appeared without warning, left supplies and advice, and vanished again. They called them the Calm Ones. Nobody saw humans with weapons. Nobody saw violence. Yet the improvements transformed their lives. Mara monitored the progress through long-range sensors. "They trust us," she said. "That is the first step. Now we observe the Council. They will notice soon." On the Council side, unease turned into tension. The delegates who had dismissed humans were now hearing reports from Delta 9. Small broadcasts, messages from traders, and intelligence reports all hinted that humans were quietly reshaping the system. "What are they doing?" demanded the Crystal Elder. "They have no ships here, no fleet, no army, and yet our colonies, they are changing." "They are clever," said a quiet voice from the back of the hall. "Their calm is their power. They do not show it, but they influence everything without confrontation." The serpent-like delegate hissed angrily. Influence? A few colonies cannot matter. We are the Council. Our power is absolute. Yet even as he spoke, doubts began to creep into the minds of some delegates. For the first time in history, the Council wondered if humans were not insignificant. Maybe they were small. Maybe they were calm. But maybe, quietly, humans could change the galaxy in ways no other species had imagined. Back on the Resolute, Mara gathered her team. "Our next step is to send a message to the Council," she said. "But we will not demand attention. We will not threaten. We will simply show the consequences of ignoring justice." Chen tilted his head. "Consequences? Without aggression?" Mara nodded. "Yes, humans have always done it this way. Calm action can reveal truth more effectively than anger or violence. We show them, not tell them. We let them discover it themselves." Rajiv smiled faintly. "They will panic before they even understand what happened." The human team prepared a series of transmissions. They sent data packets to the Council containing evidence of mismanagement, the neglect of colonies, unstable supply chains, and failing infrastructure. The information was undeniable. Every piece of data was accurate, detailed, and easy to verify. But there was no demand, no threat. The humans simply presented the truth and withdrew. When the Council received the data, chaos spread through the chambers. Delegates argued over the reports, each one trying to justify previous decisions. "This cannot be," hissed the serpent-like delegate. "We decided on Delta 9 long ago." "The humans cannot change that." "But the evidence is clear," said the Crystal Elder reluctantly. "The colonies are failing under our orders. They have not been supported. And now, humans are stepping in quietly without force to correct it." The insect-like delegate clicked sharply. "If this is true, they have skill beyond our understanding. They do not fight. They do not demand. Yet they gain influence. That is dangerous." Mara watched the Council's reaction through distant sensors. She said softly, "They are starting to notice. That is the effect we wanted. Patience, calm, quiet influence. They cannot stop us, not with anger, not with denial." Meanwhile, humans continued to assist the colonies in ways the Council could not trace. They repaired vital systems, improved communication networks, and offered strategies for sustainable energy and defense. All of it was done subtly. Humans did not need to flaunt their strength. Each small action quietly built trust, loyalty, and stability. One night, aboard the Resolute, Mara spoke with her team about the progress. "Observe, learn, and wait," she said. "The Council is nervous now. They do not understand us, and that is perfect. When they underestimate you, you gain the advantage." Chen smiled. "I still cannot believe how calm we are. Other species would be screaming, attacking, or making threats." Mara's gaze was steady. "Humans have survived worse than this. Calamity, war, famine, and still, we adapt, we observe, and we act when it matters. This is no different." Rajiv leaned back. "It is strange. They fear us without knowing why. And we have not even made a show of strength." "Exactly," Mara said. "Calm is a weapon, patience is strategy, and truth, when presented without anger, is undeniable." On the Council side, arguments became more intense. Delegates who had dismissed humans now worried openly. "They are small," said the serpent-like delegate, his voice strained. "But clever, too clever. They act without aggression, yet they change everything." The Crystal Elder nodded slowly. "They are patient, disciplined, and calm. That is power, and it is the kind of power that cannot be defeated by force alone." Rumors of human influence reached other systems as well. Traders, explorers, and minor factions began speaking quietly about the calm ones who helped the colonies. Some dismissed it as exaggeration, but many began to wonder Could humans really be more capable than their size and technology suggested? Back on Delta 9, colonists whispered about the mysterious helpers. They did not know the humans personally, but they trusted them implicitly. Supplies arrived without fanfare. Advice came through encrypted messages. Strategic guidance was provided, sometimes through small autonomous machines left in key locations. Every intervention was precise, thoughtful, and effective. The Council noticed the changes but could not identify the source. Their frustration grew. The humans had done something they could not control. They had acted without aggression, without threats, without any visible fleet. And yet the system was improving. Mara smiled at the results. This is exactly what we hoped for. The Council will soon realize that ignoring humans was a mistake, but by then, it will already be too late for them to reverse the changes. As the days passed, more delegates grew uneasy. The calm, patient humans were becoming the topic of every debate in the Council. Yet no one could figure out exactly how to confront them. Every attempt to push or threaten had failed before it even began. Humans did not respond to anger or threats. They simply acted with quiet authority. Mara prepared the next phase. Soon, she said, we will let the Council see the full consequences of their neglect. We will not fight. We will not shout. We will simply show them the results of ignoring fairness and justice. Chen leaned forward. They will panic, won't they? Mara's eyes were steady. Yes, but that is the point. True power does not need to shout. It does not need weapons. Calm intelligence, patience, and strategy can change the course of the galaxy, and when they realize it, they will remember that humans cannot be ignored. The Resolute drifted in orbit above Delta 9, silent and still, yet its presence was felt everywhere. Humans continued their quiet work, building trust, loyalty, and stability. And somewhere in the distant council chambers, delegates whispered nervously about the species they had once dismissed. They walked away once, said the serpent-like delegate, his voice trembling, and yet we cannot ignore them. They're calm. It is more dangerous than an attack, more dangerous than war. Mara watched the stars, thinking ahead. We are not here to fight. We are here to show what fairness, patience, and calm intelligence can achieve. The Council will learn soon enough. And when they do, they will have no choice but to respect humans. Because humans had learned long ago, influence is stronger than force. Patience is stronger than anger. And calm authority, when paired with truth, is a weapon no power can resist. The calm before the storm was ending. The storm itself had not yet arrived. But when it came, it would not be violence. It would be clarity, fairness, and unstoppable human intelligence. The Galactic Council had grown restless. Rumors of human activity in the Delta 9 system were spreading like wildfire through every corner of the galaxy. Delegates who had once dismissed the humans now whispered urgently among themselves. Reports kept arriving. Colonies that had been left to decay were thriving. Supply lines were stabilized. And alien factions who had once ignored the system now respected its authority. All of it had happened without a single human threat or demand. The council chambers were filled with tension. Delegates argued, pointing fingers, accusing one another of negligence. The Crystal Elder, who had once scoffed at humans, now leaned forward, its black facets reflecting light with a sharp intensity. "This is unprecedented," it said gravely. "A species so small, with no fleet, no armies, no weapons. And yet, they change the balance of power without a single act of aggression." "They walk away calmly," hissed the serpent-like delegate, frustration evident in every movement. "They leave us unsure, confused, and their influence spreads. How can this be?" "They are humans," said a small, quiet voice from the back. The insect-like delegate clicked softly. "They are clever, patient, and unshakable. That is their power." Inside the Resolute, Mara Vance monitored the Council's reactions. She had expected this. The Council had ignored fairness once, and humans had responded not with anger, but with quiet, deliberate action. Now the consequences were becoming clear. Mara knew that this was the moment when their patience and strategy would either succeed or require a new approach. "Prepare the next transmissions," she said to her team. "We will show them the full consequences of their neglect, not through threats, not through force, but through truth." Chen raised an eyebrow. "The truth? That is enough to shake them?" "Yes," Mara said calmly. "Humans have always shown that fairness, intelligence, and patience are stronger than anger or fear. We present the facts. Let them confront their own failures." Rajiv adjusted the ship's long-range communication arrays. "The data packets are ready. Evidence from Delta 9, improvements, strategies, and outcomes. Every detail verified. And nothing in this shows humans forcing anything. No aggression, no threat." Mara nodded. "Perfect. Begin transmission." The data spread across Council networks. Colonists' logs, supply data, improved infrastructure, and even reports of alien factions quietly acknowledging human guidance all appeared on the Council screens. Delegates could not ignore it. Every system, every network, every colony told the same story. Humans had acted wisely, effectively, and without confrontation. For the first time in centuries, the Council was forced to face a species it had dismissed. Panic rippled through the chambers. Delegates whispered frantically, their voices rising in volume. "This is impossible," hissed the serpent-like delegate. "We gave them nothing. We dismissed them. And yet, they succeed without violence?" "They act differently," said the Crystal Elder. "Patience, calm, observation, and intelligence. That is how they operate. They do not need weapons or threats. They win through strategy and morality. We cannot fight that." Meanwhile, humans continued to work quietly on Delta 9. Colonists had begun to trust the patterns and guidance left by the humans. Communication systems were faster, energy supplies were stable, and trade routes were efficient. They did not know the humans personally, but they could feel the wisdom and care behind every improvement. Mara observed the colonies. "They trust us," she said softly. "And that trust spreads faster than we could ever do with a fleet. This is how influence works, not with fear, not with weapons, but with intelligence and morality." Chen tapped the console. "The Council is panicking. They don't know what to do. Some are calling for compromise, others for sanctions. They are completely divided." Mara smiled faintly. "Let them argue. Humans do not need to shout. We show them the consequences, and their own failures speak louder than any threat we could make." In the Council chambers, arguments grew heated. Delegates debated the humans' influence, the Delta 9 system, and even their own past decisions. Some admitted they had ignored the colonies for decades. Others tried to justify their actions, but no matter what they said, the facts presented by humans could not be denied. "They work quietly," hissed the serpent-like delegate. "They show no aggression, yet every colony they touch improves. How can such a small species achieve this?" "They are humans," said the insect-like delegate firmly. "They are patient, disciplined, and unshakable. That is their power. It is subtle, yet unstoppable." The Council's fear was not of war or destruction. It was something far deeper. Humans operated on a different scale of thinking. They did not demand, they did not threaten, and they did not react with fear. They observed, understood, and acted with precision. Their calm presence alone made even the most arrogant delegates uncomfortable. On the Resolute, Mara prepared for the next phase. "We will now let them see the results of their dismissal," she said. "We do not need to fight. We do not need to shout. We simply present the truth fully and allow them to confront it themselves." Chen glanced at her. "And if they refuse to acknowledge it?" Mara's gaze was steady. Then they will learn the hard way. Humans do not need to force understanding. The truth, when undeniable, is its own power. They will see it, eventually. And when they do, they will respect it. The transmissions continued, spreading detailed reports from Delta 9 and other human-assisted colonies. Every data point, every improvement, every strategic adjustment was presented clearly, without exaggeration. There were no demands, no threats, no ultimatums, just truth. The council delegates could not ignore it. Panic and confusion spread like wildfire. "This cannot be," said the Crystal Elder. "They have no armies, no fleets. Yet the colonies thrive, and it is entirely without coercion." "They are humans," said the insect-like delegate. "It is what they do. They act patiently, observe carefully, and act with intelligence. That is their strength." Even the serpent-like delegate began to falter. "But how? How can such a small species achieve this?" Mara watched silently. She knew the council was beginning to understand. The humans' calm authority, intelligence, and moral clarity had created a force that could not be measured by weapons, fleets, or threats. It was invisible, yet undeniable. Meanwhile, the colonists of Delta 9 began to feel the difference more directly. Trade routes opened, energy systems improved, and disputes between alien factions were mediated with subtle guidance. All of this was done without confrontation. Humans had shown that even small acts of fairness, intelligence, and careful planning could reshape an entire system. Mara smiled quietly. "This is exactly what we hoped for," she said. "They will soon realize that ignoring humans was their first mistake, and by the time they do, it will already be too late to reverse the change." Council delegates now began to look at humans differently. Those who had dismissed them before were now openly uneasy. Some tried to argue that the humans' success was a fluke. Others admitted quietly that humans' calm approach, patience, and intelligence were extraordinary. "They are different," said a young delegate, "a species made entirely of flowing energy. They do not react like others. They do not need aggression. They observe, wait, and act with clarity." "That is dangerous." "Yes," said the Crystal Elder. "Dangerous and impressive. We have underestimated them. That is our mistake." Back on the Resolute, Mara gathered her team. "We will let them confront the truth themselves," she said. "We will not force it. We will not shout. Humans win not through fear, not through aggression, but through clarity, fairness, and patient action. That is the power we have always relied on." Chen shook his head. "It still feels strange. No threats, no weapons, no battles. And yet we are changing the Council's perception entirely." "Humans are not like other species," Mara said. "We do not need to be loud to be strong. The quiet mind, the patient observer, and the moral hand can shape entire systems without anyone realizing it at first. That is the true strength of humanity." Rajiv added softly, "They will panic when they realize the full scope. And by then, we will already have set the balance in place." Mara nodded. "Exactly. Calm is a weapon. Patience is strategy. Moral authority is unbreakable. And when they face it, they will have no choice but to respect humans." The Council could only watch helplessly as the data continued to pour in. Every improvement in Delta 9, every subtle guidance, every successful mediation between alien factions, all of it was evidence of human skill, intelligence, and calm authority. And yet, humans had not shouted, had not demanded, had not threatened. "They walk away calmly," whispered the serpent-like delegate, trembling. "And yet, we cannot ignore them. Their influence spreads, their patience. It is more dangerous than an attack, more dangerous than war." Mara observed the reactions quietly. She did not celebrate, she did not gloat. Humans never did. They acted with purpose, with calm authority and with unwavering focus on what was right. And now, the stage was set. The Council had no choice but to face the consequences of their earlier neglect. Humans had shown them that true power did not come from fleets or weapons, but from intelligence, patience, and moral clarity. The calm before the storm was ending. The storm itself would arrive soon. But this storm would not roar with violence. It would strike with clarity, fairness, and the unstoppable force of human intellect and determination. Mara looked at her team and said, "Soon they will understand. And when they do, the galaxy will never underestimate humans again." Because humans had learned long ago, calm observation, patient strategy, and moral action could achieve what force alone never could. And when the Council faced the full truth, they would see that ignoring humans had been their greatest mistake. The Galactic Council had reached a state of chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, their arguments sharp, tense, and defensive. The serpent-like delegate paced, hissing and clicking nervously. The crystal elder sat rigidly, its facets reflecting the ambient light, yet its black form seemed darker than usual, heavy with unease. Every member felt the invisible weight of human influence, though none could trace it directly. Humans had not returned to the Council in person. They had not demanded an audience or shouted accusations. All they had done was act, quietly, patiently, and with intelligence. And yet now, the consequences were undeniable. Delta 9 thrived. Colonies that had been neglected for decades were stable and productive. Alien factions who had once ignored the system now deferred to its guidance. Every report, every piece of evidence, pointed to one undeniable truth. Humans were a force the Council could not dismiss. Inside the Resolute, Mara Vance reviewed the Council's latest reactions. Her calm demeanor contrasted with the tension she observed through long-range sensors. Her crew mirrored her serenity, knowing that humans did not need panic to achieve results. "Now," Mara said quietly, "we will give them the final demonstration. They must face the truth of their own choices." Chen tilted his head. "Do we confront them directly this time?" "No," Mara said. "We will not raise our voices or threaten. That is not how humans enforce change. We simply present clarity. Let them see the results of ignoring justice." "That is enough." Rajiv nodded. "They cannot ignore it now. Every data point is undeniable. Every improvement, every success, every positive change, traced back to our guidance quietly, without conflict." Mara smiled faintly. "The power of calm authority. That is the human way." Meanwhile, in the Council Hall, arguments reached a peak. Delegates threw accusations at one another, trying to explain the undeniable success of the human-influenced colonies. "They should not be succeeding," hissed the serpent-like delegate. "We dismissed them, yet Delta 9 thrives. Our rules are ignored, our orders bypassed." "They have changed the balance of power without a single act of aggression," said the insect-like delegate. "This is not a threat we can confront with weapons. This is intellect, patience, and calm authority. This is the power of humanity." The Crystal Elder's voice cut through the chaos, heavy and serious. "We cannot fight them. We cannot threaten them. Their influence is undeniable, and it is quiet, patient, precise, and unstoppable if left unchecked." Back on Delta 9, the colonists were unaware of the political storm they had caused. They only felt the changes in their daily lives: reliable energy, safe trade, better infrastructure, and a sense of stability they had never known. Their lives were improving, and they owed it to guidance from humans who acted invisibly, carefully, and wisely. Mara observed the colonies. "Trust is a stronger force than fear," she said softly. "Influence is stronger than weapons. Morality, patience, and intelligence will always outlast arrogance and neglect." Chen studied the Council's reaction. "They are finally realizing what we've known all along. Humans do not need aggression to enforce change. We just act, and the results speak for themselves. Mara nodded. Exactly. They walk away calmly, they act patiently, and they present truth without anger. That is the kind of power no one can ignore. The council finally called an emergency session to confront the humans indirectly. Delegates debated for hours, trying to justify their past neglect, but every argument fell flat. Every report contradicted them. Every piece of evidence showed the same pattern. Humans acted ethically, effectively, and with quiet authority, and their results could not be denied. At last, the serpent-like delegate stood, hissing and clicking furiously. Enough! We cannot ignore the truth any longer. They have acted with calm intelligence, and we cannot reverse it. Their influence has reshaped the system, and it happened without violence, without threat, and without demand. How do we face this? The insect-like delegate clicked sharply. We acknowledge them. We admit that ignoring humans was a mistake. We accept that their calm, patient, intelligent approach is a form of power we cannot contest. Even the Crystal Elder nodded slowly, its facets gleaming with what could only be described as respect. We must recognize the humans. We must accept the consequences of our own actions. They have done what we could not, enforce fairness, influence change, and do so without conflict. Mara received the Council's acknowledgement through the sensors aboard the Resolute. It was not a demand, not a confrontation. It was recognition, calm and deliberate. Humans had achieved victory not through weapons, not through threats, but through the demonstration of intelligence, patience, and moral authority. She turned to her team. They understand now, she said softly, and that understanding is far more powerful than any battle we could have fought. Chen smiled. They will respect us now, not out of fear, but out of recognition of our strength and intelligence. Yes, Mara said. Humans never needed to fight. We only needed to act with clarity, fairness, and calm authority. That is the power they cannot ignore. The Council, humbled and wary, formally sent a communication to the humans. It was concise, polite, and filled with respect. No threats, no demands, just acknowledgement of human influence and the results they had achieved. Mara read the message aloud to her team. The Council acknowledges that human guidance has improved the Delta-9 system and other affected colonies. They recognize our efforts and the consequences of their previous neglect. Chen whistled softly. They actually admit it, without any conflict, just respect. Mara smiled. That is exactly what we wanted. Respect earned, not demanded. Influence demonstrated, not forced. Patience rewarded, not shouted. Rajiv added, and all without a single act of aggression. It's perfect. Mara nodded. Humans have always known this. Calm intelligence, moral clarity, and patience are stronger than anger and violence. They walked away once. Now they walk away again, leaving a lasting impression that will never be forgotten. On Delta-9, the colonists celebrated quietly. They did not need grand parades or ceremonies. They had stability, prosperity, and the reassurance that their lives were being improved by careful, thoughtful guidance. They trusted the humans implicitly, even though they had never met them in person. Mara looked at the stars beyond the Resolute. This is only the beginning, she said. Humans will always act to protect what is fair, to help where we are needed, and to demonstrate that calm intelligence and moral authority are forces stronger than any fleet, any weapon, any empire. Chen leaned back. The Council will think twice before dismissing humans again. They cannot ignore us, not now, not ever. Exactly, Mara said, and that is the lesson. True power is not in aggression or intimidation. True power is in observation, patience, intelligence, and moral action. We have shown them that quietly, calmly, and effectively. Rajiv smiled. And we walked away calmly. Just like the title says, they will remember that forever. Mara allowed herself a faint smile. We walked away, yes, but we left a change that cannot be undone. That is the human way, calm, patient, and resolute. The Council had learned an invaluable lesson. Humans were not to be dismissed. They were not ordinary. They were disciplined, intelligent, patient, and morally guided. And most importantly, they acted in ways the galaxy had never seen before. As the Resolute departed from the Delta 9 system, the Council watched silently. There was no clash, no attack, no dramatic confrontation. Humans had walked away once more, leaving the galaxy to face a truth that would shape its future. Mara looked at her team, pride and calm in her eyes. The Council will think before ignoring anyone again, she said, and humanity will continue to act where fairness, intelligence, and moral clarity are needed. That is our duty. That is our way. Chen smiled. And we did it all without a single act of violence. Mara nodded. Yes, calm, patience, and intelligence, stronger than any fleet, stronger than any threat. Humans have shown the galaxy a new kind of power today, a power it cannot ignore. As the Resolute vanished into the stars, the Council and the galaxy understood something profound. Humans were not ordinary. They were calm, patient, intelligent, and morally guided. They could change systems, influence civilizations, and enforce fairness without aggression. They were a new kind of power, one that the galaxy would never forget. And in that calm departure, the message was clear. Humans had arrived. The Council had learned its lesson, and the galaxy would never underestimate the quiet, patient, and intelligent force of humanity again. The humans had walked away, calmly, but in doing so, they had left the galaxy forever changed.